There are two credited writers. One of them, Kojima, took 3 other credits in the making of this product. All of those are pretty clear, except for designer. The first Metal Gear Solid was released in September of '98. This was the first Metal Gear for a lot of people. The transition to optical disc at the time tremendously increased the total deliverable content to the consumer. Metal Gear Solid sold really well. Worldwide shipment listed at 6 million. A month after the September 11th attacks, Metal Gear Solid 2 was released with a significant upgrade to the deliverable medium again. Max capacity on a single-sided dual-layer DVD was 9.4 gigabytes. It went on to sell 7 million copies worldwide. Looking at Metal Gear Solid to Metal Gear Solid 2 is difficult, if not even irrelevant. However, at the most basic, simplistic level, Metal Gear Solid 2 is just a more confident execution of taking an enemy man and turning him into a snake. In the Metal Gear universe, nurture over nature is absolute. Anyone can be changed into anyone else. This is exclusive to both time and sequence. There are so many ideas to discuss in MGS2 that this could take several weeks. What's going to happen is this video will have several branching videos associated with it, with their focus on other aspects. This video is going to be focusing on what I'm referring to as the GW monologue. The GW dialogue towards the end of the game has a tremendous amount of content to unpack. The two writers had so many problems, concerns, limitations, you name it, that our current global society has and the direction we are being pushed into. Some of the highlights include information collection and control, corporate influence, and with that comes censorship, not to mention its tie into framing theory, the saturation and suffocation of trivial, meaningless ideas and content, the proliferation of second-wave entertainment. Today, people are erratic, conflicted, disorganized, every decision debated, every action questioned, every individual entitled to their own small opinion. We lack harmony, cohesion, consistency, greatness. Let's take a look at that GW dialogue and break it down.
Who are you?
To begin with, we're not what you'd call human. Over the past 200 years, a kind of consciousness formed layer by layer in the crucible of the White House.
The United States has existed for a little more than 200 years, so there's an interesting correlation between a consciousness forming in the White House and that amount of time passing.
It's not unlike the way life started in the oceans 4 billion years ago. The White House was our primordial soup, a base of evolution. We are formless. We are the very discipline and morality that Americans invoke so often.
Formless, discipline, morality, evolving inside the White House, a tool, a system of moral guidelines that are imposed on others.
How can anyone hope to eliminate us? As long as this nation exists, so will we.
Cut the crap! If you're immortal, why would you take away individual freedoms and censor the net?
Jack, don't be silly.
Don't you know that our plans have your interests, not ours, in mind?
What?
Jack, listen carefully, like a good boy.
The mapping of the human genome was completed early this century. As a result, the evolutionary log of the human race lay open to us.
We started with genetic engineering, and in the end, we succeeded in digitizing life itself.
But there are things not covered by genetic information.
What do you mean?
Human memories, ideas, culture, history.
This is where things are going to start to get interesting. The basic idea is that genes only carry certain information along between each generation. The idea that infants and young children know to hold their breath when they fall into water, the basic attraction between opposite sexes, driven mostly by pheromones. One thing I haven't been able to prove yet, but I need to research more, is why human infants cry when they're born. I don't know if many other species do that because it serves no advantage. If a mother was giving birth in the wilderness and her infant started crying, there would be any predator around could just come and destroy her.
Genes don't contain any record of human history.
Is it something that should not be passed on? Should that information be left at the mercy of nature?
We've always kept records of our lives, through words, pictures, symbols, from tablets to books.
But not all the information was inherited by later generations. A small percentage of the whole was selected and processed, then passed on. Not unlike genes, really.
Here they're talking about how only the best art, the most valued, the most influential, is carried on between generations, although in every single day, every single year, every single time period, hundreds of thousands of people are creating art, but it doesn't last through time, through many means: destruction, theft, conquering. Only the best is preserved between generations.
That's what history is, Jack.
But in the current digitized world, trivial information is accumulating every second, preserved in all its triteness, never fading, always accessible.
And now we're talking about our current age with the ability for anything and everything to be stored and the ability for it to be accessed at anywhere at any time. Slander, lies, misinformation, disinformation, memes.
Rumors about petty issues, misinterpretations, slander.
All this junk data, preserved in an unfiltered state, growing at an alarming rate.
The growth rate of the internet is unbelievable. We are now measuring the size of the internet in zettabytes, which is several orders of magnitude above terabytes. Just think of the countless number of people going to an event and all of them recording the same thing. Duplication of this type is never ending. How much of the total capacity of the internet is just redundant data? All of the power, storage arrays, processing time is in utter waste. This is but one example of junk data.
It will only slow down social progress, reduce the rate of evolution.
When humans lose the ability to think and plan long term, their memory will require external support. The same 5-second ideas that happen again and again will tremendously cripple social progress. Society will completely stagnate, with none of the real, hard science being pushed out.
Right. You seem to think that our plan is one of censorship.
Are you telling me it's not?
You're being silly. What we propose to do is not to control content, but to create context.
Just as a quick refresher, censorship is the control over the media content by those in authority. Context is the most important concept a society has. It shapes and molds everyone's perception. Framing theory are the media outlets controlling the context into which facts are placed. The key word is controlling, not factual, not actual, but controlling. One could easily replace the word controlling with directing, shaping, conforming, altering, diverting, and changing. That's right, changing the context into which facts are placed.
Create context.
The digital society furthers human flaws and selectively rewards development of convenient half-truths. Just look at the strange juxtapositions of morality around you.
Digital society is social media rewarding human flaws. Flaws of ignorance, stupidity, gullible, naive. Social media selectively rewards the development of convenient half-truths. This harkens back to the framing theory. By creating context for the facts to be placed in, media outlets are able to craft half-truths and rewarding those that follow with social approval. You are really buying into their created context, not the truth.
Billions spent on new weapons in order to humanely murder other humans.
Rights of criminals are given more respect than the privacy of their victims.
Although there are people suffering in poverty, huge donations are made to protect endangered species.
Species that are being wiped out by our own actions. The very resources we seek to claim, we must reuse again to recover and save everything we've destroyed. An endless circle.
Everyone grows up being told the same thing.
Be nice to other people.
But beat out the competition.
You're special. Believe in yourself and you will succeed.
But it's obvious from the start that only a few can succeed.
This is true, and I believe it's focusing on a classism structure, primarily focusing on the problems with families inbreeding all over the world.
You exercise your right to freedom, and this is the result. All rhetoric to avoid conflict and protect each other from hurt. The untested truths, spun by different interests, continue to churn and accumulate in the sandbox of political correctness and value systems.
Using freedom to accept rhetoric that preaches avid avoidance of evidence and truth to protect each other from the realities of others. Untested truths, meaning no work has been applied to verify anything that has been presented, only believing the context. These untested truths continue to accumulate indefinitely as junk data. Sandbox, a term we have all become familiar with. Throw anything and everything in and see what works. If it doesn't, maybe try it again, but a little different this time. Sooner or later the right combination will work. Either resistance has worn thin, or general values have actually changed. But just as in any sandbox, it has no foundation whatsoever to stand on. It will be washed away in the rain.
Everyone withdraws into their own small gated community, afraid of a larger forum. They stay inside their little ponds, leaking whatever truth suits them into the growing cesspool of society at large.
The thing is, this was written sometime before 2001. These writers literally drove the nail through the board in one concise strike. Crystal clarity. How many gated communities exist online? How many forums, feeds, social, political, special interest circles are there? Keeping only their small ideas inside and negating any outside thought, even punish it. Only allowing some of their ideas to seep outside. Only vetted content and people need apply. You must comply. This is a safe area where only our ideas may fester in your mind.
The different cardinal truths neither clash nor mesh. No one is invalidated, but nobody is right.
None of these gated communities' ideas ever touch. They are all kept separate. This doesn't allow any thought or reason to form between them. When you are only surrounded by your ideas, you are never wrong.
Not even natural selection can take place here. The world is being engulfed in truth.
And this is the way the world ends, not with a bang, but a whimper.
Engulfed in everyone's own truth, the contextual half-truths allow anything to be right or wrong, not the actual facts.
We're trying to stop that from happening.
It's our responsibility as rulers. Just as in genetics, unnecessary information and memory must be filtered out to stimulate the evolution of the species.
Basically, the junk data, half-truths, gated communities must be filtered out to stop the stagnation of society and to allow it to breathe and grow again.
And you think you're qualified to decide what's necessary and not?
Absolutely. Who else could wade through the sea of garbage you people produce?
What they're saying here is the software will filter through the garbage that we are producing, all of this junk data, this nonsense, trivial, completely useless information.
Retrieve valuable truths, and even interpret their meaning for later generations.
That's what it means to create context.
Find the real valuable truth mixed into our cesspool of information so the actual truth is visible to future generations. It would not be possible for someone to access the internet at a later time without any context to make sense of everything that is here. Double meanings, half-truths, lies, etc., etc. It's the context that suffers.
I'll decide for myself what to believe and what to pass on.
But is that even your own idea?
Or something Snake told you.
That's the proof of your incompetence right there. You lack the qualifications to exercise free will.
Jack has no way of proving what he has said. If it's his own idea or someone else's rhetoric, he's just sputtering out, which is a common problem we are facing today.
That's not true. I have the right.
Does something like a self exist inside of you?
That which you call self serves as nothing more than a mask to cover your own being.
In this era of ready-made truths, self is just something used to preserve those positive emotions that you occasionally feel.
Another possibility is that self is a concept you conveniently borrowed under the logic that it would endow you with some sense of strength.
That's crap!
Is it? Would you prefer that someone else tell you? All right then. Explain it to him.
Jack, you're simply the best, and you got there all by yourself.
Oh, what happened? Do you feel lost? Why not try a bit of soul searching?
Don't think you'll find anything, though.
Ironic that although self is something that you yourself fashioned, every time something goes wrong, you turn around and place the blame on something else.
Scapegoating, spinning, pointing the finger at somebody else, all too common. Seems to be a lack of tenacity or sheer will to dive into something and truly find what it actually stands for or is.
It's not my fault. It's not your fault.
In denial, you simply resort to looking for another, more convenient truth in order to make yourself feel better.
Leaving behind in an instant the so-called truth you once embraced.
There are any number of ways to describe this, but it boils down to trading the current convenient idea or way at the time for the next one. No discernible stance on anything, just ideological flip-flopping for whatever has more likes.
Should someone like that be able to decide what is truth?
Should someone like you even have the right to decide?
Someone who constantly changes on a dime their ideological position on half-truths isn't someone anyone should be listening to, isn't someone that can be trusted.
You've done nothing but abuse your freedom.
You don't deserve to be free.
We're not the ones smothering the world. You are.
The individual is supposed to be weak, but far from powerless. A single person has the potential to ruin the world.
Again, this was written between the late 90s and 2000. The fact that any toxic half-truth or outright lie has the ability to gain a stage in front of everyone without check has the ability to destroy much.
And the age of digitized communication has given even more power to the individual. Too much power for an immature species.
Yes, yes, and yes. Too much for an immature species, as we are absolutely today.
Building a legacy involves figuring out what is wanted and what needs to be done for that goal. All this you used to struggle with. Now we think for you.
We are your guardians, after all.
You want to control human thought? Human behavior?
Of course. Anything can be quantified nowadays.
Anything can and is quantified, homogenized, radicalized, cut up, mixed up, and on 24/7. You can even buy human life and have it shipped to your door.
That's what this exercise was designed to prove.
You fell in love with me just as you were meant to, after all. Isn't that right, Jack?
Ocelot was not told the whole truth, to say the least.
We rule an entire nation. Of what interest would a single soldier, no matter how able, be to us?
In any nation state, what value or purpose does any individual have?
The S3 plan does not stand for solid snake simulation. What it does stand for is selection for societal sanity. The S3 is a system for controlling human will and consciousness. S3 is not you, a soldier trained in the image of Solid Snake. It is a method, a protocol that created a circumstance that made you what you are.
And this was all of that junk data boils down to a system of control, mass media on a mass scale for everyone to tune into and watch 24/7 when you're constantly being bombarded by the same information that's being beat into your forehead. You have no choice but to accept it.
So you see, we're the S3, not you.
What you experienced was the final test of its effectiveness.
That's crazy.
You heard what President Johnson said.
The Arsenal's GW system is the key to their supremacy.
The objective of this exercise was to establish such a method.
There are a few more subjects I want to go over within Metal Gear Solid 2 itself. Metal Gear Solid 2 definitely has one of the best narratives in a game that I've experienced so far, far above Hollywood expectations at this point. It feels a lot like the way Silent Hill 2 was to Silent Hill 1. I have only played through the first Metal Gear Solid, the second and the fifth. The third and fourth are definitely next, and I have a feeling they'll have similar subject matter. I'll definitely be capturing 3